Today we're going to talk about 6 easy ways to figure out if the Gibson you have in your hand is legit or if it's a fake. And this is really not just karma, trying to put some back in after I've bought a couple of fakes myself, but it's just so that the regular person who doesn't know they're buying a fake Gibson or is about to shell out some serious dough on a Les Paul, this will hopefully help you make sure that you're buying a legit thing and not getting screwed over. There's been a flood of them coming in from China, and that's what really this covers. If it's a really good 58 copy handmade by some dude in the backwoods, that's a phenomenally detailed thing, this isn't your video, but this is so that you know if you've got a $1,500, $2,000 Gibson in your hand, or if you've got a $200 or $300 thing that came over from China. So there's, as I said, there's 6 easy tells. Certain Chinese copies, the better they are, may have a couple of these covered, and people can swap things out to cover them, but I've never seen one that has all 6 of these things correct. So let's start. Alright, so the first thing we want to talk about is a tailpiece placement. On a fake Gibson, Chibson from China, you're going to see that the tailpiece, the stop tail, is actually closer to the bout or the base of the guitar, closer to the strap pin, whereas on a real one, it's closer up to the bridge. So there's a difference in space there. And the easy way to tell that if you don't have them side by side is, on a legit Les Paul, the stop tail is closer to the bridge than the closest pickup knob that's near it. Whereas on a fake Les Paul, the stop tail piece is farther back, if you lined up across the bridge, than where the closest knob. No idea why they've done it that way, but apparently that's how it's done. Right. Second, on a fake Les Paul, the neck, at least from the back of the headstock perspective, is one piece, as though they used one piece of mahogany for at least the majority of the neck. Some of the necks have a scarf joint as well, or a 2-piece heel. But for this particular thing, we're going to talk about the back of the thing. If you look at the image here, you'll see on the right, the real one, it's actually 3 pieces of wood that make up a real Gibson headstock. And the reason they do that is so they can use a thinner piece of mahogany for the whole neck, and they glue on 2 wings. So if you have a transparent finish and you look at the back, you'll see the 3 pieces and the wings will be there. If you've ever seen an old melody maker that doesn't have the full size of small headstock, Gibson saved money by not putting wings on it, and that's why it has a smaller, narrower, kind of weird looking headstock. All the Chibsons that I've seen have a 1-piece headstock, so it's another good tell. Next up, talk about the bridge. On a fake Chibson, it actually uses an import style slotted bridge mounting screw. So that way to adjust it up and down, you put a flathead screwdriver in and screw up and down. Whereas a Gibson, it has just a pin there, and you do it by twisting kind of the knob catch to adjust and up and down the height of the bridge. Not a dead giveaway, you can fake it each way. Sometimes people will replace one that will have a flathead screw on a real Gibson, but for the most part, all of them ship out of the box with a slotted head on the bridge. Next, we'll bring up the truss rod. Undo the 2 little screws that put the truss rod cover on, and look underneath there, and you'll see if it's like on the left, that's an import style dual action truss rod that you see on most Korean, Chinese, Japanese guitars. You adjust it by putting in an Allen wrench. On the right, you'll see a real Gibson that uses actually a nut on the end there. It's a single action truss rod. Some would say that's not as good as an import, but that's just what it is. It's the way they've always done it. It works. And you'd use a small wrench to adjust that. So, good easy tell, 2 screws, take a quick look. I've only seen 1 or 2 that came out a very rare period of time, Chinese Gibsons that had that tell on there. Next, let's talk about the wiring harness. Undo the 4 little screws on the back, take a peek inside. If it looks like the one on the left with that white weird clip and no-name pots all the way around it, it's a fake Chinese Gibson. If you look at the right, Gibson has a bunch of different ways. These are the 2 most common. The top one is the Gibson solderless connection, so that you can easily plug in and unplug pickups in there. Beneath that is the kind of the older fashioned metal plate. You'll notice in both cases the pots are all labeled either Gibson or their CTSs with date codes on those. So that's another quick way of looking in the back. If you think you're buying a 50-something reissue and it's got point-to-point with bumblebee caps and stuff, different gig. We're trying to hit the main standards and whatnot. Next is fret end nibs. This is something Gibson is kind of known for, and yet they've abandoned on their 2015 models, but we'll get to that in a sec. If you look on the left, you'll see a standard Chibson neck. It looks a lot like any other bound neck that you're going to get on an average guitar. If you look on the right, you see the Gibson, and they actually have the fret end and have the binding come up to meet it, and it's notched around at the ends of those, kind of smooth, so it gives it an upmarket look. And they've done this for as long as I've known. 2015, they've gotten rid of it because it feels, I don't know, the rationale, but they've stopped doing that. If you're worried about it, perhaps, but it's 2015. Well, if it doesn't have a metal nut called a 0 fret, it doesn't have a hologram on the back of the headstock with clear coat over it, and perhaps the E-Tune, Mini-Tune tuners, it's not a 2015, and very likely if it doesn't have the fret ends nibs on there, it's a Chibson. It is an option though, and they do make them with that. So they're not the best done job, but people then go and file them and clean them up to make them look just like the Gibson ones. So it's not 100% accurate on that, but it's still very common, and the vast majority that I've ever seen don't have the fret nibs on the ends. Next is just, those are the main 6 items there, but there are a few small details. The plastics tend to be this yellowy, funky color, and if you put it next to a real Gibson's plastic, they definitely don't look creamy. The pickup rings are a little larger. They're an import size, so if you happen to have an Epiphone around or something and look, if the Chibson or Gibson that's being perverted is new to you, and it's the same exact size pickup ring, it shouldn't have an import ring like an Epiphone. It should have a smaller ring like the Gibsons do. If it's a custom, like a Les Paul custom, the diamond is small. It's small like an Epiphone diamond, and the diamond really should go from the top of the truss rod cover all the way up almost to the bottom of the Gibson logo and fill as much space as possible there. For some reason, most of the Chibson custom diamonds are the smaller Epiphone size because it's probably what they copied to begin with, and they just keep doing it. A couple quick things. The Bigsby's are always a B700. You can look at Bigsby's website and see the pictures. It's definitely a different look, oftentimes even unlabeled. They've just started labeling those, and we'll show one of those at the end. The truss rod covers that these come with are cheap, awful. Most people swap them out. They look really bad, and if you buy an $8 truss rod cover, bring it and compare it, you'd see immediately that it's a cheap Chinese. Another good one is, it doesn't happen on all of them, it's only on one of my 2 Chibsons, is a lazy cutaway, where the shape of the cutaway, it's definitely different than a Gibson one. And if you look at enough pictures and you look at these ones that have in a minute, you'll see how the cutaway goes, and that's a good tell for some of the Chibsons. We've seen it kind of on and off over the years. And finally, the logo, and this is real nitpicky. If you look at a Gibson logo, it's very much straight up and down, so that the edge of the G is kind of in the same plane as the edge of the neck, whereas the Chinese ones lean just a little bit. And we'll show you that too as we go through. So that's the basic stuff here. Putting a link down below to a PDF file that'll have kind of the same pictures that we just went through there. So you can always print it out or have it in a PDF or PDA. Wow. Yeah, welcome to 1994. Have it on your iPhone or Android phone or whatever and look at it while you're checking out something to make sure you don't get screwed. So now I wanted to do something kind of interesting, which is just a little, is it a fake or is it a real Gibson quiz? And we've got 6 Les Pauls here, all labeled Gibson, and we're going to go through and real or fake on each one and see how we all do. First one, look at the body. She's pretty. Then look at that. Quick look at the headstock. Look at it straight up and down just so you get an idea. And back to the body. So what do we think, folks? Real or fake? And people who have seen any of my other videos on the channel, no cheating and yelling it out loud and ruining it for the rest of the class. Alright folks, fake. It's my guitar I like to call Stan Lee. A couple of the quick tells. Import bridge with a slotted screw. You can see the tailpiece is farther away from the bridge than the closest knob. See that? Pickup rings are a little bit larger. Kind of tough to see at this, but that's it. They've been swapped out, so the coloring isn't really a tip-off. And if you look at the headstock, you can see that the edge of that G is just canted in a little bit compared to the edge of the fretboard. Still claims to be made in the USA. You can be a stickler for some of the other details there. Oh, and there you go. No wings. Didn't give you that one. No wings on the back of the headstock. Fake. Next, start at this guy. Also quite pretty. Headstock. Now we'll do the swing. If you look there, and there you go. So what do we think, folks? It's a real one! I'm a real boy! So here you go. You can see the tailpiece is closer to the bridge than the closest knob, which is really a great tell. The plastics are smaller, tighter, they're not as wide. Cutaway shape is real, which so was the last one. It's one of the good shape ones. What else do we have here? Looking up the headstock, you see the G. Now see the line that's more straight up and down, whereas on the other one it was kind of leaned over a little bit. Normal truss rod cover. Can't see the wings because Chibson solid cover. But this is a 2013 Les Paul Traditional Pro 2 in Inverness green. Early Christmas present this year, and I love her. Next, do fake studios too, so don't think that's the giveaway. There you go. Swing that around. And there you go. This one's a little unfair, but we'll come back. What do we think? It's a real Les Paul. It's a Les Paul Studio 60s Tribute in gold top with a natural back. This one, you can see, hopefully, that it has wings on the edge of the headstock. It's a little tough to see in the camera. American style bridge. You don't have a tailpiece to go on, but here's a good thing to know too. If you've got a Bigsby on the guitar, if the Bigsby fits with a vibramate, which this one happens to, you can see the screws, it's probably a real Les Paul or a Korean Les Paul Epiphone. Because of the bridge post, when you put a vibramate, the Bigsby doesn't fix. It hangs off the end because the bridge holes that the vibramate attaches to are too far up. Real Les Paul. Plus, this is a B7, which is the real deal American. Next. Oh, she's pretty too. Why, thank you. So we're getting close. Look at the headstock. Edge of the fretboard. And come right back up. Make it quicker. Real or fake? This one's a fake, folks. Dead giveaways, lazier cutaway shape. Kind of comes out farther than a regular one. Wider plastics. Slotted bridge. That right there is a Bigsby B700, the Chinese Bigsby. It's a little narrower. It's built kind of differently. They're really not as good. You don't have the tailpiece here to look at, so you can't tell the knob placement. That's kind of a tell there. We look up at the edge of the back of the headstock, and ta-da! No wings. I did switch out the... Actually, no, this has the cheap truss rod cover, which is not nearly as accurate a bell as the Gibson one. And the fret ends are a normal fret end. Next, this little feller. Getting close. Take a look. No one's actually keeping score on this, much like the Drew Carey show, or Whose Line Is It Anywhere? Points don't count. We're just having fun. There you go, there's your headstock. Bring it right back. So what do we think, folks? Real or fake? This baby's real. There's your fret end nibs that I haven't been highlighting enough through this, if you can kind of see there, where the edge of the frets are actually come up to meet the fret, the nib there. USA style bridge, which then you can see the little thumb screws down there. The tailpiece is once again closer to the bridge than the closest knob. Let's see if you can see with the camera there. Might be a little hard, but there are definitely wings that you can see through. This is a 2011 Les Paul Traditional Plus, and she's a sweet little ride. Last one, I promise. There we go. Get her nice and close. Back her up to the frets. All the way up. Ignore the snark tuner. Here, I'll take that off. There's the logo at the top. That little guy. Frets again. Back her up. Spin. What do we think? This one I wasn't entirely fair. It's a fake. It's sort of a Chibson. It's a Bulldog Bodies kit. Sourced out of China. Or maybe Korea. To be determined. But you'll see the tailpiece is a little closer. The bridge on it's actually a kind of a quasi in between. It's a smaller head, but it still does have a little slot there. But the knob tail doesn't help there. The fret ends are definitely the normal style, the non-Gibson style. The overlay is closer to parallel with the neck, but she still doesn't have the wings. And the wings are really a great giveaway because very few of them have them. But this is a body that I built. Came out reasonably well. If you got really close to it, you can also see some fit and finish items, but that's for me because I am to blame on that. I am not a professional luthier by any means. I just have issues. And with that, we bring this one to an end. Hopefully this is helpful. Get an idea of what a real one versus a fake, and the last thing I want is anyone to get, you know, screwed over by this new Chibson phase that a lot of people like myself are going through. You know, I won't be selling any of mine. With that said, who knows how they eventually go down the line. So, as I said before, I'm Nick in the States, and obviously I have issues. Thanks for checking us out.